Hey, good morning, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm talking to Garth Brooks.
Entering his second year as the LSU head football coach.
It was the only way I could get a foot in the door.
Joined by the icon, Kim Mulkey. Hey, Coach, great to see you.
All right, welcome to another edition of Jacques Talk. It's my pleasure right now to be sitting on the floor of the Mini Dome, the F.G. Clark Center, with the head coach of the Southern men's basketball team. They call him KJ, Kevin Johnson. Coach, thanks for having me today.
Jock, I'm glad you're here.
Great to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
We like winners, and you're winning.
Well, anytime you can recognize Southern University basketball, it's a good thing.
I appreciate that. Well, you guys certainly, we try to cover every game as much as we can and give you the press you deserve. How do you like it here so far? That's just kind of an open question here to start. How do you like coaching at Southern?
You know what? I've always had an affinity for Southern University. This was a school where I came to football games when I was a kid. Came to basketball games in this building, and I've had so many family members and people close to me that have gone to this institution. And then I'll fill you in on this. You know, I actually paid my own way to come here in the summer of 1985 because I wanted to be a part of Southern University.
So you were here in 85?
Summer of 85.
Summer of 85.
Right.
Hot summer of 85. And this arena, and it seems like the fans are coming more. It's still, in my opinion, it's a very nice arena, but then when I go to a college game, I don't want to go to a place that's too pristine, too shiny, right? I mean, there's a lot of character and history in this building.
Right. Well, it's still a beautiful building. They've gone through some changes. There have been some updates. We're sitting on a brand new floor. I think this floor is only a couple years old, but you know what today's college basketball is about. It's about the environment, and boy, do I love this environment. Yeah,
you've had some big crowds here, and then, you know, it's not football. You can't play on Saturday or Sunday every game you play. So you've had some, like, you had the national exposure when you played the ESPNU game, but then you got tipped it off on a Monday night at 8 o'clock. So those are the kind of things you deal with.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a challenge, but boy, I'm so grateful for the Jaguar faithful because they showed up.
What do you think about basketball here in Baton Rouge? Because it's always been an interesting topic, whether it's LSU or Southern or the high school scene. Well, we're a football town, but they will come. But it takes a combination of winning and a nice, exciting brand of basketball.
Well, first of all, Baton Rouge is kind of been a grassroots mecca. You got some really storied high school programs, and they get a lot of attention. And that's good for us because it makes Baton Rouge fertile recruiting ground. But it can also be a football city, but in my opinion, I've almost made a career of recruiting young men from South Louisiana, and in particular Baton Rouge.
Well, just within a stone's throw of this campus, right? You got Southern Lab, Madison Prep, Zachary a little bit down the road. Got a lot of great schools here. A
lot of great programs, and my staff does a good job. They attend a lot of those games, so we're always looking for that next Jaguar.
There you go. How does Southern in today's climate compete in a climate that a lot of people are kind of getting turned off by? They don't want to hear about a team has $8 million worth of salary on it, and guys come together in 1 year, they're in the portal to see if I can go get more money someplace else. I guess more power to them. Choices I never had. But, you know, way back when, I mean, you remember when Southern beat Georgia Tech in the NCAA tournament, right?
Ben Jove, 1993, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go. Yeah, a little more than 30 years ago. So can something like that happen in 2025?
I think it can. You know, the landscape of college basketball, college athletics in general has changed with the NIL. But someone asked me today, well, how do you do it? How do you survive? I think the key is you always have to find some guys who might be undervalued. And, you know, I've been at some places where that's how we survive. But we're going to continue to look for those guys. But eventually, in order to win big, you're going to have to be a player in that game. So I'm looking forward to tackling that challenge also.
Well, Southern just got a lot of great national pub, the Human Jukebox at the Super Bowl, and made a lot of national television appearances. And then there was a Fox News came here a couple days ago. Tony Clayton was on national TV, right?
Right.
Yeah, so.
Well, shout out to you know, Dr. Taylor, Human Jukebox, and we've been thankful to have them at the games because they're a big participant in that environment.
Yeah, one of the great treasures here at Baton Rouge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all the Super Bowls and all the great events they've been a part of. Your team looking at it, I mean, they seem to embody team, because I'm looking at the stats and I'm not seeing a guy who's averaging 20 points a game. Your leading scorers got a little bit more than 10 points a game, and it's like 9, 8, 7. I mean, everyone is playing their part, and points, that's just one aspect of basketball scoring. Got to play defense, got to rebound. But this team, why is it playing so well collectively?
Well, I think these guys don't mind playing defense first. You're not going to have a great offensive game every game, but defense, we coaches like to say defense travels, and they take that attitude to the floor. And then the other part to that is, when you play this game, it's such a great team game. If you're one of those players who's only concerned about your own production, then that team is not going to be very good. These guys don't care who scores. We have guys who can score in different ways, and I think in the games we've played so far, we may have had 10 or 11 different leading scorers. And so as long as these guys feel that way, I think the sky's the limit on what we can do.
And that's what you have to identify in the transfer portal too, right? I mean, you can look at stats and say this guy is a great player, but if his attitude doesn't jive with everybody else, it's not going to work.
It's like anything else. It's got to be the right fit. And we're going to evaluate some guys in the portal, and if there's some guys who fit, then we'll try to add them to our program.
And your bench too, I believe you're leading the country in bench points, so I guess that's got to be a great positive to the team when everybody knows that they're going to participate and help.
Yeah, and Jock, that wasn't something that was by design. We have battled so many injuries. Delane Moon would have been our starting center this year. He didn't play one single game. Tejan Damasi played 8 games. He was preseason first team all-conference as a point guard. And so we've had to make some adjustments. And we've kind of morphed into a team that has a couple of different groups, and both of them can be effective in different ways. And so it's been working for us so far, and we're going to continue to ride that wave.
They embrace defense. They embrace rebounding.
Defense is number one. If you don't defend, then you're not going to get a chance to get on that floor.
Yeah. Well, in my very low level playing growing up, I just remember they would always say offense comes and goes, but defense can always be there. Right.
Defense travels. Whether you're at home or on the road, you should be able to defend, because defense is about effort, right? But some nights that ball doesn't always go in, and you can rely on that effort if you've got it.
Well, and most kids, when they're growing up, they dream about being in the backyard. 3, 2, 1, I'm taking the last shot to win the game. They don't necessarily think, I'm going to get down in the defensive stance and slide this way and slide that way, and, feel my quads burning and so forth, right?
You know what, though, Jack? Dreams are a part of it. I had those. You probably did as well. But it's a team game.
Yeah. I just, watched Avery Johnson and Chris Jackson and just said, wow, I wish I could do that,
Yeah, me too.
Hey, your boy over here that coaches the women, Carlos Funches, man, he was a highlight film back in the day, huh?
Well, I'm one of the few people that was on the downside of some of those games. I was actually an assistant at Northwestern State when Carlos played at Northeast, and we didn't beat him when he was there.
Well, and I want to talk more about your team, but just
Sure.
some more about you. Mm-hmm. You've been coaching in Louisiana for knocking on 3 decades now. You've been in every corner of the state. You were head coach at Centenary, right?
Right.
Been down at Thibodeau on the Bayou, coaching
Right.
with them.
Right.
Southeastern, right?
Right.
Tulane.
Right. Well, for a guy from Morgan City, I've been very fortunate to be in this business and to have always remained close to family. There's guys that sometimes they leave home and they never get a chance to come back to that region. So to me, that's a blessing.
Yeah. So you were a head coach at Centenary, I guess that's going on 20 years ago, right?
Correct.
Thereabouts?
Yeah, 1999 to 2005.
So you were just kind of crafting your skills to get that next opportunity, which was here.
It's actually a very unique story. Someone asked me the other day, that was my last head coaching job until A.D. Banks hired me here last year. And so there's 18 years in between head coaching jobs. I know a lot of my friends who have given up on the business, and because this is a tough business, but I wanted to stay with it because I feel like I have a lot to give to these young men, and just I'm blessed to have another opportunity to lead my own program.
What did it mean to have a guy like Roman Banks hire you? Because Roman was having a heck of a career as a coach, and I sometimes wonder if he would have continued, what kind of career he would have had. But he said, hey, I want to be the AD, and I think he took over at a time where Southern really needed him. There were some problems here to work out through
Sure.
academics and some other things.
You know, well, first of all, to be contacted by someone who I had a relationship with. I was actually an assistant coach at Northwestern when Roman was a player. I believe it was his sophomore year. And so that's a relationship that's been over, 30 years ago. And so for him to reach out to me, it was special.
Yeah. What other I know you coached with the Cajuns for a while.
9 years in Lafayette, 9 years.
With Coach Marlin, who had a nice run, and there are two kinds of coaches: those who have been fired and those who will be fired, right? For the most part.
That's what they say in this business.
So, what I remember about him is that NIT game you played at LSU. You remember that?
I was a part of the game. I was on the bench for that game, and that was a special team. We actually set a school record in wins down in Lafayette, and it's amazing. So that team was built to probably be a Sweet 16 NCAA tournament team, but we had two key injuries. Jaquina Gant gets pneumonia, and Jonathan Stove, who's from Baton Rouge, gets a high ankle sprain. And so at the end of the year, we weren't our strongest. We get upset in the conference tournament and then lose that first round NIT game in LSU.
Jonathan Stove played at Christian Life, a school that's no longer exists here. But Michael Clayton, Christian Life, there are a lot of great athletes. Right. Shane Andrus was a running back way back when. You remember the press conference in that NIT game? Marlin and Will Wade? Got a little heated.
I remember it being a little fiery.
I'm not trying to be messy, but that's what I remember about that. Lafayette, too, like growing up in Lafayette, they would tell me this is a basketball town. Like, did you ever see a game in Blackham Coliseum?
I did, and so when I was in high school, I saw a bunch of games in Blackham. I think the Cajun Dome was built around '85 or '86, which is when I was a player. But Blackham was a wild place, a fun place to go see a game.
Yeah, you would hear that they put 7,000-8,000 in there on a pretty regular basis. Bo Lamar?
That's going way back, but I had a chance to meet Bo Lamar. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. What about just basketball around this state, in the Southern Conference and in the SWAC? What is it right now?
I think it's getting better. I think the quality of the coaches is at a good level. I go all the way back to the time when I was in high school in the early 80s. Every single state university was good. And I'll tell you why they were good, Jack. Because they had the core part of their team were all Louisiana guys. The state was oozing with all this basketball talent, kind of like it is, with football. And every state school was good. And I would love it to return to a day where all the state schools are good, and then we can play each other.
Yeah. Well, you look back at the great Southern teams, right? Carlos Semple, he was a local guy. And then LSU's Final Four team, which is going to be 20 years ago next year, was basically a Louisiana AAU team. You look at Tasman and Tyrus and Garrett and Daryl Mitchell and all those guys. Big Baby.
That's right. That's right. John Brady talks about that all the time. He goes, Louisiana, starting five on the Final Four teams from Louisiana. From Baton Rouge. How about that?
And they all came the other night. I guess they were here to see you and Johnny Jones from Texas Southern. The president, William Tate, was here.
I heard that. I haven't met Dr. Tate, but I heard he was here at the game.
Yeah, I think they were all sitting here courtside watching that game. What's your take on Johnny Jones, competing against him?
When I was in high school, Johnny was a player at LSU, and I got to meet him. He recruited my younger brother, who was nationally ranked player, McDonald's All-American, Dave Johnson. He didn't sign him. He ended up going to Syracuse, having a great career. But that's when I first got to know Johnny, and have known him since over the business. But he's done a good job wherever he's been. He did a really good job at North Texas. He came to LSU for a while, and at Texas Southern, he's been to 3 NCAA tournaments. So he's done a good job, and a guy I've known in the business for a long time.
Scheduling for you.
A nightmare.
Well, here's the deal. As we're sitting here, you're 18-9. I've been in this covering Southern. I've been in town for almost 25 years here. I don't remember a whole lot of times at this point of the year Southern was 18-9, and that's not a knock on Southern. It's just the non-conference schedule is such a murderous road that it's hard to be over 500.
Yeah, and so if you go back to our non-conference, we played 13 games. We only had 3 home games, and so you know how difficult it is to win on the road, and We have to bring in some money to supplement our budget, and so it takes us to places like Nebraska and USC, and Ole Miss and Texas A&M. You have to play some of those, but every once in a while.
Well, last year,
not all the time.
you go to Starkville last year. You beat
Right.
number 21 Mississippi State.
Right.
You also beat UNLV. This year, you've beat Louisiana Tech, Tulsa, and you've played the likes of number 2 Arizona, number 20 Illinois, number 3 Marquette, Iowa, A&M, Ole Miss, and like you said, Nebraska. So you're not hiding from anybody.
No. These kids, they have a lot of the same dreams I had, right? They get an opportunity to play college Division I basketball, and they always want to test themselves against the best in the country. And so I know they look forward to those games, but you have to be really careful how you manage those games, because you want to come through those without injury. That's the thing you worry about.
Yeah. Well, Ben Jobe used to call it something else a lot of times when you would play these, get a big check.
Yeah.
Is that the balance? Like, hey, we need money, but we don't want to demoralize these kids too much playing some of these games.
Yeah, I think you got to be careful, by playing so many of them. I think that, we've been in a good range, and you got to be careful about the travel, because it tends to wear you down. So I think we've done a decent job managing that so far, but we got to keep that in perspective.
Are academics still a focus?
No doubt about it. They'll always be with me. I had an old coach tell me one time, if I'm paying the bill, you're going to go to class, and that's kind of my attitude with these guys.
Yeah.
And so you're going to go and you're going to do your homework. So.
Because basketball, all these guys are on full scholarship besides your walk-ons. Right?
Correct.
I mean, you got sports over here like baseball where they've got, one stick of butter of whatever 13 scholarships that they're spreading out over 35, 40 players.
Right.
And so, I guess it's important to go to class and.
Yeah. Well, the ball's going to stop bouncing for everybody. And so what are you going to do after that? Hopefully you've taken advantage of your time here and you have a degree that you can take and say, I qualified to do this job. Because you're going to have to go to work at some time.
Yeah. Are you concerned? I mean, maybe not so much here, but some of these guys that are playing like at 5 schools in 4 years or 4 schools in 5 years, whatever, that when they get in the real world, you can't just leave job to job like that. It's not going to work.
It would make a difference to me if I were hiring someone and they had that as a track record. And so, I know it would affect me. So try to get some stability and some consistency. And I tell these guys it's important.
Yeah. Consistency. So you're hitting the stretch run. And I know you've talked about, hey, last year we didn't finish like we wanted to. So I don't know if you bring that up. You don't want to jinx anything because you're rolling right now. But then also keeping the focus of, hey, let's keep our edge here. You got 4 games in the regular season left. You're going to make that Florida swing, and then you got 2 home games to close out the regular season.
Sure. You know what? We did this last year. We're only going to take 1 game at a time. You can only play 1 at a time, right? But I do know with the way last year's team was, towards the end of the year, we were running out of gas. We didn't have quite as much left in the tank. And you could see it. You could see the decline. I think having a team this year where we've been able to play a lot of guys and have more depth, just look at our last ball game at Grambling. We look to be the fresher team down the stretch. And so you can only hope that continues, but we'll take them 1 at a time.
Yeah. Even 18 to 22-year-olds get gassed.
Of course they do. And coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How much do you sleep at night?
Not much. Usually the last thing on my mind when I go to bed is what happened that day with these guys. And then as soon as my feet hit the floor in the morning, I want to know, hey, what the guys doing? What's the day going to be like? So don't get much sleep.
Yeah. Well, John Brady would talk about that. He'd stay up all night, and he'd hear the newspaper hit his front door, read the newspaper about the game they lost or won, and just once you go into broadcasting, you don't take it home with you. That's what he says.
Wow. I'll keep that in mind.
Win or lose, you leave and you go have some dinner and maybe a glass of wine, and you don't think about it as much. So
that's hard to do.
That's a long way down the road, right?
Yeah.
And the SWAC tournament, right? I mean, this is kind of a do or die, right, for everybody involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's any at-large teams, but typically there's not. The team that wins the tournament gets in, and everyone else has to pack up or go to the NIT.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of one-bid leagues out there, right? We're not the only one. And I'm just excited that this year is going to be at a new venue. I think a smaller venue where if we get a decent crowd in there, I think we have a chance to create some atmosphere and make it a good environment for a tournament.
Yeah, well, you're in Atlanta too, right? So you're hoping
Right.
that there's some basketball fans that just want to come watch some basketball.
Yeah, and not only that, what school doesn't have alumni in Atlanta? So I'm looking forward to a bigger crowd for the tournament.
Anything else I should have chatted with you about?
Oh man, you covered the gamut. That's awesome.
Well, I tried to prepare myself a little bit. What about Willie over here? Is Willie doing his job?
Willie's the man. He takes care of me. I get worried when he's not around.
Okay, all right, there you go. That keeps you important, Willie. You know, the second we become unimportant, that's a problem.
Oh man, that's it.
I tell you what, the other day I'm watching your game against Grambling. Jordan Johnson was it? I think he took a shot. It was like almost at half court. Hit the rim off the top of the glass in as the ultimate shooter's bounce. When you go 6 for 6 from 3, things are
you
going
get some
right.
of those. Yeah, you know, Jordan Johnson, we recruited him out of junior college, and on his visit here, he was making shots from that far out, and I was like, oh my goodness. And so last year, before he got injured, he was a top 10 3-point shooter in the country. And so he got off to a good start early this year, kind of hit a little slump, but boy, it was nice to see him have a breakout game.
Michael Jacobs, he's been consistent.
Michael Jacobs was a highly recruited player out of junior college. We're very fortunate to get, and he's still learning and figuring out the Division I game, but I like the way he's developing.
And then I guess some other guys, Tesno, Dubal.
Yeah, Derek Tesno is a senior, probably the most experienced player in our program. He's a young man I saw play quite a bit in high school from South Louisiana. And it worked out. He went in the portal at the same time as I took this job, was able to get him here. PJ Dubal is a 6'9" wing who's really talented, trying to figure some things out. I'd like him to have a bigger role.
Yeah.
But again, we're still a work in progress.
Your coaching style, you don't strike me as a screamer and a shouter. Here and there, you got to pick your spots.
Well, I used to scream and shout a lot more when I was younger. But no, I really on game nights, you know, I want to be a cheerleader for these guys because they work their tails off through the week. And on that night, my number one goal is to cheerlead them. Now, every now and then, I have to shake them up a little bit, though.
Yeah. There you go. The doctor talked about your blood pressure here and there, maybe. I don't know. And what about, would you like to play LSU? I guess they're in the situation of everything to lose and nothing to gain, perhaps. But
yeah. You know what? I think it would be good for the city. I think it would be good for the community. And the best part about it is if they would come over here as well. But I know those guys over there. I have some friends on that staff, so we don't talk about it much.
I'd be, I think Mulkey has talked about playing the Southern women and maybe coming over here or maybe doing it even in like Mumford in a stadium outside, you know.
Iowa did it, right? Yeah, right, with the women, Caitlin Clark. So, you know, you put a stadium outside.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Do you know Matt McMahon at all?
I do.
Yeah. He's fighting a struggle. I mean, that league is a Shark Tank, man. When you play in Florida, who's number 2 on Saturday, you play in Tennessee tonight, who's number 5. It's just it doesn't stop. It's
the toughest league in the country, and you know, it is so difficult. You can have a really good team, and you can be in 10th place.
Right.
But I bet there'll probably be 10 teams from the SEC make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Well, good deal. And what about just walking around this campus? You get a sense that the students, you're getting them more engaged?
Yeah. You know what? I walked this campus as a kid, and it seemed like, maybe it's because I was young, but there were people everywhere. And, you know, we still have a good student body, but I'd like to see more.
Yeah.
More kids on campus.
I tell you what, the ones that show up, I could never dance like that. They keep your stands. They don't sit a whole lot. There's a lot of shaking and good stuff going on.
Look, I think we got the best home court environment. Jaguar Nation, they're knowledgeable and they're into it, and it's entertaining.
Yeah. And that atmosphere you just went to at Grambling too. I was watching that on the YouTube feed, and that was pretty. Yeah. That was
well, we won't talk about that too much.
we don't want to end talking about Grambling. Well, look, I really appreciate it. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
you will,
right,
absolutely.
Right.
Kevin Johnson, head basketball coach here at the Southern University. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you later.